And oh shoot. Not that you guys can see this, but I now have to make a new scene on here. Or instead of window capture, I need to do desktop capture. Boom. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. I love me some Streamlabs. Okay. So to start, thank you all for joining me. I appreciate it. Before we get too deep into it, I do want to quickly review what we did yesterday, as far as the resource packs are concerned, and then we can get into data packs. You might be wondering, oh, Devin, you said that we were going to do animations today instead of data packs. Well, actually, I changed my mind because having a data pack is necessary to doing the animations. So I figured in episode 2, or meeting 2, we may as well go ahead and get that data pack created. Alright, so if I open folder, actually let me go ahead and just open recent. That would be a whole lot easier. This one. Alright, so this is the resource pack that we put together yesterday. And to quickly go over how everything works, this is the file structure that we're going with. We have a Minecraft assets with a pack.meta and a pack.png in here. Pack.meta is very important. You can look up this number, just Google it on whatever version that you want. It is specific to the version, but there's some variance in there. Like, it's, there's some variance in there. Some outdated resource packs will still work on the new stuff, but you generally want to stick to the version that you're targeting, or lower. Going higher sometimes makes a difference. Anyway, 2 folders, Minecraft and tutorial resource pack. The tutorial resource pack is where all of our stuff is going into, and Minecraft is the folder where all of Minecraft's native stuff goes into. And the only thing that I have in these is models and textures. The 1.21 NBT data remake. Yeah, so we'll definitely get into that because the data pack that we're going to be structuring is going to be based in 1.21, which is very fun. So, as far as the Minecraft folder is concerned, the models go into the items folder. You can put whatever item that you want in here. I believe on my folder I still have the Minecraft source right here. So this is taken from Minecraft's internal files. You just open it up with WinRAR and you can extract these. Assets is for the textures and models, and then data is for everything data pack related. So we'll be referencing this as well today. So and then I am realizing that this is actually the 1.20 version that I had saved in my desktop instead of the 1.21, so we are going to have to go through that again. But assets, Minecraft, models, item, and then here's all of the default Minecraft stuff. You can basically just copy these and put them into your resource pack, and if you open these up, they will have these in here, which is important because you just put a comma, have overrides, and then make a list of what of your custom model datas, and then reference your stuff, so that way the game, utilizes your content instead of Minecraft's internal content. And then that can easily be thrown over here to our models, and our stuff is arranged in exactly the same way as what Minecraft's is. Except inside of this item folder, we can have our own folders and stuff like that. Subfolders. We just need to make sure to direct things to the right places properly. all the coding had frustrated me so much. I'm very sorry. It is a lot, but we're gonna get into it. Some other stuff right quick. Same thing with the textures. The textures folder has all of the textures for everything, and yeah, so that is pretty much how resource packs work. Okay. Maybe someday in the future I will go ahead and re-record that, but I mean, honestly, it's not like you couldn't find tutorials for this stuff on YouTube or whatever. So, anyway, we are going to go ahead and in Visual Basic Studio, I'm going to make a. Actually, no, I'm going to on my desktop here. I am going to make a new folder, and we're going to call this a data pack of some kind. Let's just call this tutorial data pack. Alrighty. So that is our data pack folder that we're going to have. And much like the resource pack, it also needs a select few bit of stuff that needs to go into it. And I'm opening up another Visual Basic Studio window so that way I have a reference. Because believe it or not, I don't do all of this stuff every single time off the top of my head, so... Oh, I want to grab the 3.0 resource data pack. Okay. So, as some of you might know, the file structure for 1.21 has changed completely between from 1.20. So that's something that we're going to have to deal with. Inside of our root folder, we're going to need a data folder. And then we're going to need our pack.mcmeta. Not a folder, my bad. I just need any pack.mcmeta. Please. Please do it. It's not going to do it. Okay. Alright. Fair enough. I guess the first thing that I'm going to do is put this into the game. So we're going to disable the spell system 3.0. That way we only have one data pack going. And then we're going to go to resource packs, open folder, and then we're going to look for our save, which is this one, and data packs is in the world, and then I'm just going to drag this over here. And then once again, I'll copy this. I don't need that open anymore. And I will go ahead and actually I'll make a new window because I will have to refer back to this later, probably. And we're going to open the folder. We're going to paste this up here, tutorial data pack, and select the folder. So now we have our code space in here. I can finally make this pack.mcmeta file. And if I'm thinking off the top of my head, I think that it's probably the same thing. Where did I put that? It's like 40 something in there. Yeah, 48. Okay. So this is what it is. pack format is 48, and you can put your description in there. It's the same thing as the resource pack, pretty much. Except it's got a different number. So if you're following along, just, see if you can put that in there. All right. Vex is typing. Appa says that he just copies and pastes a Datapack format. That's good. Oh, accidentally click the keyboard. Okay, fair enough. All right, so inside of our data folder, that is where our Datapack is gonna go. So we're going to make a folder, and we're going to call it Minecraft. We'll start out with a Minecraft folder, and we'll also make another folder. Tutorial Datapack. Alrighty. So inside, this is very important, so I'll try to be slow on it. I'm gonna click save all and exit out of that. Inside of our Minecraft folder right here, because if you remember from the resource pack, anything that's labeled Minecraft is something that is being referred to as, or anything that's labeled Minecraft is a space where we refer to where we redirect the game to our code, basically. So that's the same thing in the resource pack. That's the same thing in the data pack. The resource pack more so, but for Minecraft in the data pack sense, we really only have to do a tags folder. And then inside of that tags folder, we're going to make a function folder. And inside of that function folder, we're going to make two files. A load.json and a tick.json. So these two files are very important because the tick function basically is where we every single tick when a game is running, you have to implement something from the data pack on here. Or I guess it doesn't have to be every single tick, but it needs to be just this right here just references, it says, hey, this game, you're going to run this file every single tick. And inside of this file, we're going to make a couple brackets and type in values, colon, and then square brackets. And then we're going to start by typing out our namespace, which is this folder right here, which we called it tutorial. That's spelled wrong. Tutorial Datapack, and then colon, whatever function you want to happen every tick. Now, when I'm doing this, I like to do underscore tick and have that be my tick function. And the reason is whenever you have these files loaded in here, they're loaded in alphabetical order. And if you have this underscore right here, it will automatically put this file to the top of your list. So if you have a bunch of files in here, it'll be difficult to lose it if it's automatically filtered to the top. So for the load, we're going to do the exact same thing. So I'm just going to copy and paste that. but instead of having tick, I'm just going to call it load. And that is everything that we need to put into the Minecraft folder. The rest of the pack is going to be working out of our tutorial data pack folder. So we kind of have free reign as far as how the rest of this works. So I'm going to make another folder in here called function, and that is basically where all of our code goes. So inside this function folder, we need to have those two files that we just named. So that would be _tick .mc function. Everything that is a function inside of Minecraft is a .mc function. That's how it... oh, excuse me for a moment. I need to update this. Okay, there we go. And then I need to make an _load.mc function. And then these are those two files that were referenced back in here in the Minecraft folder. So, as I said before, this file will execute every tick of the game. So if I put in here, say, hi, and then I save all of this. Actually, hold on a second. No, actually, oh, I'm good. And then we're gonna have to reload this. So you can see my chat window is now being flooded with hi from the server, okay? Which is not ideal because there's other things that we could be processing there. So you really want to reserve this tick function for things that have to happen every tick. Whereas for the load function, I like to put in a little message in here that says, say datapack, or I'll just do a tell raw at a datapack loaded. And then that will be in there. Unfortunately, my thing has crashed, so I'm going to have to restart that. File open, recent. Okay, there we go. It should be listing. Okay. Wow. All right. Fair enough. Okay. So, what can we do with data packs? Well, first and foremost, I want to save all of this, and in order to stop this from doing it, I'm just going to do /reload, and then now it says data pack loaded, and it's not spamming up my chat anymore. So there's that. So a data pack, to explain it, is sort of like the ultimate command block. So, you know how in Minecraft /give the man hats command block, you have a command block, and the command block has pretty much one function, which is to run commands. So you can put commands in here and execute these command blocks, and it will do things, right? And there's a whole bunch of stuff that you can do with these command blocks. So you can like do execute at the mana mini hats, run particle, angry villager, shore, relative positions, 111, speed 0, count 100, force. And then that will execute particles. That'll run those particles where I am, right? So you can execute particles, you can build blocks. So /set block, bam, 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 diamond block. And then, boom, there we go. You got diamond blocks. You can even do bigger things and more advanced things than you could ever imagine, like copying entire structures, cloning things, like just the list goes on and on. It's crazy. It's insane. Yeah, you can basically just do whatever you want. And that's what I'm saying, is that Datapack is like the infinitely better version of command blocks for a few reasons. Number one, it's because command blocks, they have to be in your world, they take up space, anybody who has op permissions can access them and mess with your code, and they can be destroyed and broken, and you can lose your stuff. None of that is the case with Datapacks. Now, that being said, Datapacks are also faster than command blocks. They produce less lag on your server. Like, you think that the Everdark server is laggy now? Could you even imagine what it would be like if that data pack that we're running was all just like command blocks inside of a freaking loaded chunk somewhere? Believe me, I've had a system like that before. It ain't good. It's pretty bad. It's so bad. So, I've moved on to data packs, and we're gonna run some data packs here today. I can't even imagine such a thing. Yeah, like that. Except, man, I tell you, the command block room in the bordered world was absolutely crazy. So, an extraordinarily useful thing for data packs is script. What is script? Command block room over progress. Oh, it's a plugin? Okay. So, an extraordinarily good thing for data packs is tags and scoreboards and triggers as well. So inside of the load file, we're gonna want to make some triggers. Okay, there's some scoreboards, I guess. So let's say I want it to be every time I do /trigger sheep, a sheep will spawn at my location. Okay, so inside, I'm gonna need a few things. I'm going to need a function that does that, and I'm gonna need a scoreboard and a trigger command that does that. So here's what you do to make that example a reality. So you're gonna want to do a scoreboard objectives add sheep trigger. Okay, scoreboard objectives add sheep trigger. So this will create a scoreboard called sheep, and it will be based off of the trigger command right here. The trigger command is special because that's one of the only commands that players can access without having op permissions. Okay, So what would be really easy for me to do is inside here, I'll just make a new function called summon sheep.mc function. And then inside of the tick function, I will do scoreboard players enable @a sheep. And then I will do execute as @a scores equals bracket. Oh, I put 2 equals there. Sheep equals 1, and then I will do run function tutorial datapack. I don't know why that happened, but oh, it's because there's a space there. Yeah, okay, so that's another thing. You don't want to have spaces or capital letters in here either. Okay, there we go. So, execute as @a. So @a is all players. If they have a score of sheep equals 1, we're going to run function tutorial datapack summon sheep. So that is tutorial datapack inside the functions folder summon sheep. And if you're using Visual Basic Studio with the plugins that are relevant to, or the extensions, I like to use this Datapack Essentials extension to highlight everything properly. It comes with a bunch of stuff bundled into it, and that's basically all this stuff here. So, just to let you know. If you hold down the control button and click on that, it will take you to the summon sheep function file. And here, I can do summon, or what I want to do is execute at s run summon sheep. All right. So in this tick function, what it's saying is I'm going to execute as @any player that has sheep equals 1 as their scoreboard, and we're going to run the function tutorial datapack summon sheep. And in here, it's saying we're going to execute at s is the individual who is being targeted by this command. So it is the player, it's this right here, the person who has the score there. We're going to run summon sheep position their current location. Tilde. So now, if I do, let me save this. Save all. If I do /reload, and I do /scoreboard, objectives, set display, sidebar, you'll notice that I now have a... Now we pray Hatt doesn't crash his PC because he didn't include a thing to reset it. Yes, Appa, you have correctly identified the issue here. You have correctly identified exactly what's going to happen as soon as I do /trigger sheep. It is gonna summon a billion sheep. Alright, so having a billion sheep happen might not be the intended effect that you want. So, in order to get around that, we have to add a few things in here. So, the very first thing that I like to do whenever I have a trigger function like this is reset the scoreboard of the player that triggered it. So, to do that, we do scoreboard players set at s sheep 0. So it sets it right back to 0. And that should fix our issue there. So now if I reload and do /trigger sheep, it will just summon 1 sheep. Because my scoreboard is instantly set back to 0 in the same tick that this is running. But that's not all. What if I want more in here? Well, I could do more in here. I could make some particles. Zero. Force. And now, when I do /trigger sheep, it will do these particles. I could play sounds. I don't know what sound this is gonna be. Hopefully it's something. Ship. Yeah. So as you can see, this is very nice. Definitely exactly what we want. All these sheep have to die. These items will clean up themselves, I'm sure. I'll just walk away from the litter. Okay, so here's the thing though. Surely we don't want to have all of our functions in here because this can get kind of messy, right? So instead of putting everything in the function file, we can actually make more folders. So if I make another folder and I can name it whatever I want, and I'm just going to drag this into that folder, and that way it's all contained pretty well. And instead of doing tutorial datapack :summon sheep, you have to do tutorial datapack triggers /summon sheep, because this is the folder that it's in and this is the function that it's running. And if I just save that and then reload this, it should still work. Yep, it sure did. Okay, so that about wraps it up for the basics. I mean, the world is your oyster at this point. Like, you can... I basically coded the entire Everdark spell system data pack off of just these skills right here. The fundamentals are the best, honestly. If you really want to get more in depth to it, I guess we could, but I'm gonna need some ideas as far as what to code. So does anybody in the audience have any idea as to what I should put into this tutorial data pack? A turret tower. Left click / right click detection. Okay. So the left click and right click detection. Left click detection is still a little iffy. Right click detection is completely doable. Traditionally, what we would use would be warped funguses on a stick and get the right click detection off of that. But these days, I can achieve the same thing with with an interaction entity. And boy, it takes a little bit of doing, but maybe I could do it. So /summon interaction. So I just summoned an interaction entity, and you might be confused because there's nothing here. But if we do F3B, you'll see that there is a box there. So let's go ahead and start with right-click detection, left and right-click detection, because that will, if we get to it, it will lean into making the turret tower. I feel like making a turret tower will be an episode 3 kind of thing, because that way I have modeling, resources, animation, and then the whole shebang. So I will get into right-click and left-click detection right here. So if you are wanting right-click detection on an object or a block, this is your go-to thing. So this is an entity, and it doesn't have any kind of like cramming stuff. So you can just place this wherever you want. And if you right-click on it, it will detect it. So /kill that, and then let me summon interaction, and then data get entity that. So this right here, interaction, has the following entity data. So motion, invulnerable, air, on ground, portal cooldown, yada yada yada. There's nothing in here inherently complicated, or there's nothing that we really need out of here. But as soon as we right-click it, which I did, I just right-clicked it. You didn't see it, but I did do it. If I get that data again, it has a new line in here that says interaction, player, and then it's got this big long string of numbers, and then a timestamp, and then another big long string of numbers. So this big long string of numbers here, this is my internal UUID as far as the game is concerned. I could do the same thing with left click, and now if I get the data, it has, not only does it have an interaction, but it also now has an attack. So attack and interaction are the two things that we're going to want to detect. So, let's, real quick, let's make another scoreboard. Scoreboard, objectives, add, summon, tutorial, interaction, trigger. And then in the tick function, we're going to do scoreboard players enable at A, summon tutorial interaction. So sorry, but I gotta go do schoolwork. Okay, sure thing. Don't worry about me. We all Gucci in here. Copy, save, and then triggers. Summon tutorial interaction, and then I will go ahead and... Is this not going to automatically make it for me? It's not. Okay. That's fine. All right. So the very first thing that we're going to have to do is we're going to have to make this entity that will detect the right clicks and left clicks and stuff. So I have just made a trigger command that will create, or that will run this it will run this this function that we can use to create this interaction entity. The same as we have the sheep. So very first thing that we do, scoreboard, players, set, at S, summon tutorial interaction 0. That way we don't, duplicate it. Second thing that we're going to do is we're going to summon interaction, or we're going to execute at S run summon. Because if we don't have this execute at S, that means it will summon the sheep at the point at which the data pack is running, which is 0, 0, 0. Or somewhere around there. It's in the loaded chunk somewhere. So we need to add some tags to this so that we can find it. So to do that, we just do tags, square bracket, and then we can put as many tags as we want in here. And I'm going to call this tutorial interaction. And that's the tag that I'm gonna have on it. So now if I reload and do /trigger summon tutorial interaction, there is now an interaction entity with a data get entity, and you can see right here in the tags it has tutorial interaction. Now this is very important because we're going to have to find this entity with the data pack in order to, detect it. So, what do we want to do with this entity? So, we can come back over here to our tick function, and now we are going to want to execute at E, which is all entities, type equals interaction, tag equals, now what did we have that tag? Tutorial interaction? Right there. And we have tutorial interaction, or no, we're not going to do at, we're going to do as, my bad. And then we're going to run function. I'm just going to click on this, but I'm going to call this something different. At this point, I feel like we can make another folder. So in the functions, we have an interaction folder, and then I'm going to call this just interaction /tutorial interaction. And I can go ahead and make that like that. So now, whenever this entity exists, this tutorial interaction entity, whenever this specific interaction exists, this function is going to be running on it. So I could come in here and I could do particle execute at S run particle angry villager 111 speed 0 count 10 force. And now if I save all of these and do a reload, this interaction entity is now getting particles. And if I summon another one, it will also get particles.
Kill at E type equals
interaction, comma, distance equals dot dot 16. I do actually want to have one here, so I'm just going to disable this. And now it's stopped. All right, so now we're working in this function. What we want to do is we want to have it to where this function here executes whenever the interaction entity is interacted with. Yeah. Which, that's pretty easy. We just do an execute as at e type equals interaction. And then in order to get the interaction from it, you have to use the NBT tag here. So, or NBT selector. And the cool thing is that if you have the interaction as anything, right? Just have this right here. So because whenever we data get entity, so you can see that on this item there is no line for interaction, which means that anytime this block is this entity is interacted with, it gains a new tag. So that can pretty much simplify our code, because we can basically just say, hey, if this entity has the interaction tag on it, no matter who it is, no matter what timestamp it happened, then we can do something with it. So what we can do is we're executing as this interaction entity with the interaction tag at s. So now we're executing at the interaction entity, its position in world. And then we're going run, and then we can make this do anything that we want. So we could even make it run another function, summon sheep. And then I forgot what the summon sheep does. It just players set sheep, run summon sheep. Okay, so what this will essentially do is this will create a sheep at this interaction entity. However, we're not done, because if we just leave it like this, we'll run into another issue where it's going to summon 1 billion sheep, because this interaction entity will just have this interaction on it. So what we want to do instead is we want to copy this, and no, we don't want 1 billion sheep, because that will kill my computer. So what we want to do is we can basically just summon a new one of these. So with the same thing that we did here, instead of running trigger summon sheep, we can do summon tutorial interaction. And then that will run this function here, which will summon a new interaction entity. So this thing is going to summon a sheep, and then it's going to summon a new interaction entity. Now, we want to make sure that it only does this once. So now, if it has an interaction, it's going to summon a sheep, summon a new one of itself, and then it's going to kill itself. Big oof. So we can do the same thing with the attack. It's gonna kill itself. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. That's just what it is. So now, whenever you right-click on this or left-click on it, it will do all of this stuff. Now, you might want it to do, a different thing depending on whether you're interacting with it or attacking it. Here's a really cool thing that was introduced. Well, actually, let me just show you, take a break and show you how this ends up. So now with the data pack reloaded, if I right click on this, it spawns a sheep. Or it would be more visually appealing if I left clicked on it, I guess. Isn't that cool? Again! Yeah, there you go. Alright, so that's basically how that does it. Now you might want this to do something else instead. So here's a really cool thing about interaction entities. So you remember a couple seconds ago, /summon interaction /data get entity that if I attack this, what? Why did that happen? Hold on. That shouldn't have happened. Oh. Oh, I know why. Okay. So instead of this @E right here, we want to make this @S. That way it only runs on that particular... sorry about that. Okay. Summon... interact. There we go. So, as I was saying, the cool thing about the interaction entities is that if you interact with them, data get entity, it will get a interaction and an attack, and it records your UUID whenever you interact with it. So Mojang, in their infinite wisdom, has given a way to target the individual that has interacted with it. So the way that you do that is you just do a on, and since we're doing the attack, we're going to attacker on. Oh shoot. So on attacker. So that is like whenever I interact with this entity now, the attacker will be me. So this code will be executing as me, which means that I can now do an at S, and instead of summoning the sheep on the entity itself, it will summon the sheep at me. And the reason why it killed me is because of this right here. So I didn't actually want this here. Yeah. All right. All right, so that's an example of a data pack gone wrong. And here's what you can do about that. So you go ahead and go into the world. Well, actually, now that I fixed it, if I just save this and just reload the world, then it should be fixed. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Clean up the area here. Okay. As I was saying... Oh! Look at that. That sound is so unbelievably jarring. What sound? The dying sound? Or the killing all of the sheep sound? Oh, the horn sound? Yeah. Okay, so the reason why it summoned an interaction here is because I told it to summon an interaction here by having this on attacker. So if I just remove this and save that and do a reload, it will not summon a new one. So I've got two of them now. Right click, left click. Alright, so /kill at e type equals interaction, comma, distance equals ... 10. So, let's say that we want this thing to follow us around. So this is a pretty core mechanic of the data pack with what I'm about to share with you guys here. So how the data pack works is whenever you're holding an item, say this hat or carved pumpkin, the game will detect that you're holding this, and then it will teleport an interaction entity to be on your player. And whenever you left or right click, you're actually hitting that interaction entity. So I can actually Datapack enable spiral spell system. So I can actually demonstrate this pretty clearly by doing this. Don't mind the damage here. Oh, not that one. Yeah, there we go. So this is how it works here. Basically, whenever you're holding this caster, which is a barrier in this version, this interaction entity follows you around, and whenever you let it go, it deletes it, and that's pretty much how it works. Now, this is a little bit much as far as what I want to get into with today, with like how, you know, having to hold this and detecting all that, but essentially this is how it works, and I'm going to go ahead and show you how to possibly go about coding this so you can do it for yourself. So /datapack, oh wait, Datapack disable spiral spell system 3.0. Okay. So, the easiest way to do that is to just say execute, not sexecute, execute, that's a different thing, as @e type equals interaction, comma, limit equals 1, comma, sort equals nearest, comma, tag equals tutorial interaction, at p run tp at s at p, or at s, like that. Okay, so this might be a little jarring to look at, but essentially what this command is doing is it's in the tick command. So 20 times a second, this is going to teleport an entity, an interaction entity, only one interaction entity, the nearest interaction entity, the singular nearest interaction entity that has the tutorial interaction tag on it, and it's going to teleport it to the nearest player, or it's going to execute at the nearest player, and then it's going to teleport to that location, which is the nearest player. And what you end up with is this, which is not... Did I really make that many interaction entities? Interaction, comma, distance equals dot dot. Oh, I guess I did, huh? when I did the dying thing. Okay. So we're going to do a /trigger summon tutorial interaction. All right. So this is how it's working. It is essentially just keeping an interaction entity clamped to me. Now, it's not positioned in the right spot. So in order to fix that, you just have to go 1 right here on the location. And then save that, and then we can do a cheeky little reload, and now it'll be up. Easy peasy. And then this is pretty much it with like how the left and right click work. So I can just right click on that, left click on that, and both of those are being detected properly. And that's how I do the click detection. So, yeah. I'm glad you think so. It is very nerdy, that's for sure. And the code can get quite complex. But I'm definitely working on ways to make it easier. So, if you're ever on the Everdark server and you find that you're unable to run and cast at the same time, it's probably because you're going really fast and the interaction entity can't really keep up with you properly. That is where plugins come in, because that's a whole nother thing entirely, because the Crucible plugin and the Items Adder plugin allows to actually have true click detection on the items that we can define. Waiting for Saber to type. This is the same reason why you can't smack someone who's stunned or wield a sword with a caster in your offhand. Yes, kind of. Like I said, in the on the Everdark server, sometimes that's an issue. Well, I guess always that's an issue, because if you have your caster in your offhand and the sword in your main hand, then the caster is going to take precedence over the sword. So you can swing your sword, but also whatever you have your spell in your caster is also going to trigger. But the reason why you can't smack someone who's stunned is because whenever someone is stunned, it's an armor stand hitbox. And you'll notice that the armor stand hitbox is a little bit larger than the player hitbox. And whenever you're stunned, you're constantly locked to this hitbox as well. So, and you'll notice that whenever this is the same reason as to why you can't cast while you're inside of a stun either. And you'll notice whenever I left click, it breaks the armor stand instead of, hitting the interaction. And since the armor stands are invincible, then that is what leads it to, being able to have issues there. Now, I am happy to report, first of all, I'm sad to report that I'm not going to be fixing that issue in version 2.0, and I'm sorry about that. The good news is that I have already fixed that issue in version 3.0. So there's that. Waiting for people to type. You guys can also raise your hands and I'll bring you up to the stage if you want. That way I can have some more voices on my... There we go. Speaking in this economy? Come on up, Saber.
Okay, so I was gonna ask... So, I don't know if you know, but when you are stunned, you do, you obviously know this, you coded the thing. So you can still sort of walk around, but you just get TP'd back.
Yeah. There's a freaking ad playing right now. Sorry.
So yeah, you get teleported back, but you can still technically walk around and stuff. So what's stopping you from just walking for a second and then casting a spell?
What's stopping you from walking for a second and casting a spell? The deal is with that is it's probably desynchronous lag between your client and the server, because the server is running the stun data pack every tick. So it's 20 times. It's supposed to be 20 times a second. So, so what I would imagine is probably happening is that your client is going forward, or running in a direction, and it looks like you're escaping. But what's actually happening is the very moment that you start moving, the server will teleport you back. And your client's just not able to keep up with it. And there's a little bit of desync there.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Saber comes with ads.
I do.
Alright. So, before we wrap this up, is there anything else that anybody wants to see or has any questions with how this works? Yeah, you're late. You're very late, Fi. I'm sorry. I've made a sheep spawner in an interaction. How did you attach an interaction entity to an item you're holding? Okay. So... that is a bit more complicated, but I do think that I can get into it. So, first and foremost, let's go ahead and come back in here, and we'll stop this teleportation here. With a comment. Well, or actually, I guess we don't have to. As at E, run TP at... Okay, so... No, actually we do. Okay. So... basically what you have to do is you... Hold on, excuse me. Sorry, sheep, you're too loud. Basically what you have to do is you have to run a command positioned at the players that are holding the specific item that you want. So... I'll go ahead and do that real quick. Inside of the tick function, because it executes every tick, I'm going to do an execute execute as at A, and then I'm going to do a nbt equals selected item Minecraft netherite. Oh. No, I think it's another pair of curly. Yeah, okay. Selected item ID, and then Minecraft netherite sword at S, positioned 1, no, not 12, just 1, and as at E, tag equals tutorial interaction, and I want to do a type equals interaction, comma, tag equals tutorial interaction, and then limit equals 1, comma, sort equals nearest. As at E, run at S, run TP at S, and then that position like that. So this function right here is executing as all players who have selected item, which is the item in your hand, is a netherite sword, at the player, this selector here, positioned 1 block above them. So 1 block above from the origin of the player, which the origin of the player is at the center of the player, so that is, or the lower center of the player. So it's like at their feet. So you have to do a +1 there. And then we're going to switch back to as entities, interaction entity, a tutorial interaction entity, one of them, the nearest one, and we're going to run TP. The selector, which is at S at this point, is now the interaction entity, and then the location of relative to where this entity is, because I have at right there. And now, if I reload and do F3B, you'll notice that the interaction entity is following me. But as soon as I switch off of that netherite sword, it'll stop following me. This will work on any netherite sword, But if you want to target a specific netherite sword, then you're going to have to get a bit more specific in the in this section of the code right here. So, for example, I can put a comma here, put a comma here, and I can put components, and then in here I can do custom model data 1, and then save that. And then if I reload this, you'll notice that now I'm holding the netherite sword and it's not following me anymore. I can hold this one, it's not following me, but if I hold this one, it is following me, because this item has the custom model data 1 attribute on it. And that's essentially how it works. That's essentially how it works. It's a little bit more complex with the spell system because, of course, I spawn things and kill them if they get too far away and stuff. But this is generally it. This is the brunt of it. Okay. You know how when a player dies in Everdark, you have a spellcaster and a book automatically summoned in their inventory? Is that also done through the datapack, and how? Yes. Yes, it is done through the datapack, and in order to show you how that's done through the datapack, it would be easier to just show you the code. So... Oh boy. Hold on one second. Like I said, it's a little different in the 2.0 version because 2.0, of course, is in 1.20. But I think the functions that we're talking about here are going to be mostly the same. I haven't done it in the 3.0 version yet, but, okay. So this right here is the entirety of the 2.0 datapack. We'll ignore most of this. So, inside of the tick entities, well, let's start at the load. So load. I have an abundance of scoreboards in here. And one of these scoreboards is in relation to player death. Right here. No. Shoot, let me see if I can just find it. Death count, right here. Alright. So, this scoreboard right here, death count. Okay, so remember in the other, in our tutorial data pack, if we go to the load function, we can, so this area right here, trigger, that's just one aspect of a scoreboard that you can do. Realistically, there are a ton of other things in here. And I mean a ton. There's a lot of them. Basically, anything that appears in this statistics page, you have access to as a, as a recording metric. Anything in here. Anything. Like mobs killed, just lots. Whether or not you have been killed, killing a specific mob, the amount of time that you played, literally everything in here is an entry that appears in this list. So, in order to do in order to give the player the stuff on death, the spellbook and the caster, you use the death count score statistic. What that does is that means that whenever your player dies, they gain 1 point on the death count, and I can activate a function based on that. It's a little tricky though, because you can't target a dead player, or you can't target a dead entity because it's basically like erased from the game's memory at the point of it dying. But what you can do is inside of the tick function, I've got a tick splitter. So right here, I have this code: execute as @s Minecraft player scores equals death equals 1, and then we're going to run a function, detectors on death. So what this does is whenever the player dies, it gets the death score, and whenever the player respawns, this function takes effect on that player. So if I navigate to detectors on death, this is the function that is done on players. So players who died. So the very first thing that we do is we set the death to 0. That way this whole thing doesn't spam. The scoreboard, the will is reset, and then we're going to add the 1 tag onto the player. And the reason why the 1 tag is added onto the player here is because it makes it easier to identify the players. Because instead of doing @e's and @s's, I have to do @a's and stuff. So I set the revenge target here, and then I set the revenge target here, and then I have to do some weird things by giving the player some more tags. These are basically exclusions here. So if the player has checked a box saying that they don't want a caster, they don't want a book on death, then it won't give it to them. But essentially, once we get down to this point, we're pretty much home free, because the player will then be running the function trigger get caster, and then trigger get book, and then we'll reset the empowerments. And this is the addicted stuff. This is added by Taco and stuff like that. So inside of this function, we are running the get caster function. So now we have to go to the get caster function, which is located here in triggers, get caster. And this big long list, it looks daunting at first, but it's all basically the same thing, except it's just giving you different skins based on what caster you have. And then the same thing with the get book, and this will just give you the book for whatever spell line that you have. So it is not the hardest thing in the world to do, but it is pretty involved. Yeah. Oh, and I guess I should also say that the item, the caster and the book that you drop whenever you die just gets deleted. And that is, I think it's in the tick file. Tick entities. Interaction casting tube. Death equals 0. Item switch. Yeah, I don't know exactly where it's at, but I know that it's in here somewhere. Honestly, incredibly impressive what you've done for the server. Seeing all this makes me really appreciate it. Well, I appreciate that you appreciate it. This data pack here, the 2.0 data pack is definitely a piece of work. Although I am tempted to go ahead and show you the 1.0 data pack now. Custom, where is it? Let me see if I can find it. Is it in Duality? Yeah, here it is. I remember now why I stopped learning to program. Oh, come on, Saber. You can do it. I have faith in you. Duality, data pack, select folder. All right. Check this out. So, you know how I have in here the 2.0 data pack. I mean, once you get the basics down and understand what it does and how it interacts, it makes things a bit easier. That is true. That is true. That's why I just went through this tutorial with the basics. But, all right. So this is the 2.0 data pack, and I want you to pay attention to a few things in that how everything is nice and neatly and organized, and it has a spot for the most part. I mean, there's a few things in here that that could probably be sorted a little bit better, but I'd have to talk to Taco about that because he did all this stuff. But everything else is in its own little folder, like these custom books, like these things, these giant walls of text, these custom books. Everything has its own space. Now, the same cannot be said for the Duality data pack, the 1.0 data pack. It is just a massive dump of everything just sitting in the function file. Look at all of this. This is nuts. What? So, I want you to realize this is the first data pack that I've ever made. This Duality data pack. This is the data pack that was in the Duality server. And you can see none of the conventions that I use today are in this data pack. You want to see something else that's really disgusting? So I have this right here. Spell System 2.0. This is the 2.0, and my ticks are split up. And the reason why the ticks are split up is to make things perform better. So this _tick, this is the tick function that we were working with in our tutorial thing. It's right here. And it's, to be perfectly honest, this is not too super horrible, but it will get bad if we continue doing it like this. So in order to optimize things, I have one line in the tick function. This function is ran every tick. The reason why I want this function to run every tick instead of this function to run every tick is because I would have to have this do 5 functions every tick instead of one function. So this whole thing right here, basically what this does is it runs as every entity on the server, but it puts them in a line. And it will go through and it will do all of this, and then it will stop doing that, and then it'll move on to this, and then it'll stop doing that, and then it'll move on line by line, essentially. And that's much more preferable than doing all kinds of stuff at the same time. Furthermore, I have it split out to even further, where I have a function for ticking players and a function for ticking entities. So here, in the player tick, this is what the player tick looks like. It's not super huge. Well, I mean, it is pretty big, but it's pretty big as compared to what I have in the 3.0 data pack. It could be smaller, but it's not the worst thing in the world. Trust me, you're about to see the worst thing in the world. And this here is the entity tick, which also is not the worst thing in the world. Bigger than what I have in my 3.0, but not the worst thing in the world. However, if we take a look at the tick function in the 1.0 data pack, if I can even freaking find it, because I did not name it correctly. Hold on. This is the load function. Oh, I guess I can give you a look at the load function. Look at all of the different load scoreboards that I have in here. In the load function. All of these scoreboards. It was a mess. And then let me look at the tick file if I can find it. Oh, here it is. This is the tick file in the Datapack 1.0. This entire thing was running every single tick. Every single tick, all of this was running. So, what makes this extra bad is if we come down here to my former spell categories, this is Flame Aura. So, as you can see, in this line I have execute as at A, which means that it is searching for every single player and looking for this tag. And then, in the next line, execute as at A, which means that, again, it is searching for every single player and looking for this tag. At A, at A, at A, at A. And then it gets even worse down towards the bottom because I have at E, at E, at E, at E. Every single entity. It's just... Yeah. So Duality did not run well at all. Just saying. I'm talking like, I think, okay, so the incredible thing is that despite all of this nonsense, when the finale happened, we still ended up with 25 people on the server, and it wasn't running the best, but I was still getting 3 or 5 frames a second. So yeah. The biggest difference, I think, between this data pack and the data pack that I'm working on now is that in the original days, I had all of these scoreboards on here. And you'll see that a lot of these scoreboards have the same naming conventions to them. So I've got Lightning Bolt 1, 2, and 3, and then each of those has a cooldown. So every single spell that I had in here also had a cooldown associated with it. instead of just having like one cooldown be the master copy, which I don't know. Some people might say that that's better. I disagree because of performance reasons. The 1.0 pack is hurting my brain. Yeah, believe me, it was a nightmare to code in this thing, having only one folder. Yeah. But that's why we move on. It's in the past now. And the past can't hurt you, but you can learn from it. Which is why these days I'll give you a little sneak peek of what I got going on here. This is the 3.0 Datapack. No, it's not. Yes, it is. Yes. Okay. So this is the 3.0 Datapack. I don't have everything in here, of course. I do have a list of scoreboards, and this is my tick function, which goes into a core functions, the tick splitter command. So tick splitter function. So into core functions, tick splitter. So now I have the same idea, split it between players and the spells. So for the player tick, this is what the player tick looks like. It's so much smaller. And this is what the spell entity tick looks like. It's way smaller. Now, like I said, not everything is implemented yet, but keeping on this track, it's going to be a whole lot better. Hopefully the function isn't going to be as big of a deal. And I've decided to start on function 10,000. That way people can't go through and, unlock things that they shouldn't be by utilizing the /trigger function command. Yeah. So the cool thing about this is that the spell system 3.0 is completely dynamic. And what I mean by that is that if you come into here, this is the spell casting. I guess I should probably give you some frame of reference. This is the 2.0 data pack. You can see this is the function for casting the first slot. So this is the left click function. And the way that it currently works is that whenever you left click, it will go through and it will detect what tag, or it will detect what spell you are casting, and then it will execute the relevant spell from the list of spells that I already have programmed. And this is a whole lot more succinct than what the 1.0 would be. But the bad thing is that if I want to add any more spells, I have to add spells down here in the spell expansion area. I have to give them their own unique ID, and I have to give them their own unlock tag, and I have to give them their own function and all kinds of stuff. And I have to copy that 5 times between these 5 keys, which is not ideal. It's a whole lot better than it used to be, but it's not ideal. With the 3.0 data pack, after I get this function done, I'm never going to have to touch it again. And I would say that this is probably 99% complete. I might have to change something in here or maybe add a couple things, but this is pretty much complete. I'll never have to touch this again. The way that it works is that instead of having spells that are pre-programmed into the game, that have pre-programmed functions, I have instead a bunch of compartmentalized modular functions. And spells are basically a collection of tags that are placed on an entity. So like Ars Nuvea. Well, I'm more going for Ars Magica too, but Ars Nuvea is kinda the lesser version of that, so yeah, maybe. Or Mana and Artifice, if you've ever played that. It's exactly like that, yes, yeah. So you can see from this function here that the only thing that this casting function is doing is it is copying the tag from the caster, and it is putting that tag onto an item display that is summoned. So that's how you get a situation like I was showing off last night, to where you can have a bunch of different kinds of spells by just switching out the tags on the item that you're holding. So it goes a little bit further than that, because not only can the spell be changed based on the tags that it has, but also based on the tags that the spell has, I can get the spell cost, the spell range, how much damage the spell does, and how much knowledge the spell gives you once it gets triggered. And then just cooldowns and stuff like that. But the point is that it's all modular and it's all dynamic, and I've been working really hard to make this like the best that it can be. To the point where I've even added recently, I've added 3 more casting slots, because I figured out how to do the crouch casting, and also sprint clicking. Sprint left, sprint right. And I realized that those 3 more casting slots are a little bit, they can probably be a bit overwhelming. For example, like, people are probably going to already be sprinting whenever they are casting their spells, and maybe they don't want a different spell for when they're sprinting. That's fine. You'll have the option to turn it off if you want. You can just forego those spell slots. Yes, Saber.
Couldn't the casting method be more like how like Windcraft does it, where you put in a combination of button presses and that casts a specific spell? I mean, you would have to still be able to set the spell, but it would be more like a kind of like a fighting game where a combo does an ability.
So I could do that, but I don't want it to be like that, specifically because if you're executing button presses like the WASD keys, I assume you're referring to.
I was referring to the mouse button.
Mouse?
So you crouch and then mouse button. So
well, that's how it works.
Well, yeah, but it's like so when you're crouching, right? You get pretty much up until that. It's like how you have it right now, but instead of it being crouch left click does this thing, crouch right click does this thing, you can set left click, right click, left click to do one thing. Right click, left click, left click can do one thing. So RLL, LLR, RLR, stuff like that. And you get a lot more spell slots basically that way.
I could do that. But at the same time, I kind of feel like if I were to implement something like that, it would mix it up a little bit too much. If you know what I mean?
Sort of. Like, just you think it'd be too different from what you've already been doing, or?
Yeah. I do like the idea. Maybe I can implement something like that for like secret interactions or something. But so I kind of want the spell system to be snappy and reactive, despite the fact that things have cooldown and you have to watch your mana and stuff like that. If I have a delay in there for putting in button combination presses, I feel like that'll slow it down a lot.
Not necessarily, because I mean, you can press your mouse button pretty quickly. If you have both fingers on it, you can just go boom, 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 boom. And so as long as you know exactly what combination you want to use, it's pretty much just an instant thing. Because I mean, I don't really need to explain it. You can, I mean, if you try LR on your mouse right now, you would do it in like less than a second.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally get it. Like I said, maybe I'll come up with a secret interaction for something in here. Have like a staff that does it or something. But I mean, clearly at this point, I'm way too far gone in the other method, because I've got all of this in here, and it's really difficult to change directions, man, after you've got like all of this already programmed in here. So far, this is probably like a month's worth of refinement on my end. Where was I? Spellcasting. So, all of these things in here can be found in the spell components folder, and then these are further split into the spell builder folder, casting types, and all kinds of stuff. So because the system is modular, I have different functions for every single one of these casting types, or like everything, it has its own function. But for, let's say, if we get the spell cost, which is calculated pretty early up in the spell, it's basically just a list of the available tags that the spell has, and then it just adds the cost to the spell based on what's in here. And you might notice that I've also got this execute as at s run function _ spiral spell system custom content : custom will cost list. So I've been tinkering around with this for a little bit, milling about in my head, and I have come to the conclusion that in order to make this the most dynamic that I possibly could, what would be more dynamic than letting people make their own content? So, excluding the Spiral Spell System here, I have another folder right here called Spiral Spell System Custom Content. And inside of here is basically just another array of folders. It's an index that allows people to come in here and just define their own stuff. And I basically hashed this out today. So this is hot off the presses. So there's not a whole lot in these files, but I do have some examples of how a spell would work. So because the system right now is so dynamic and modular, these spells are pretty basic in and of themselves. It's only when you combine them together is when they become complicated. So here's an example. I just have a blue fireball explode, and this is a spell effect. It's going to summon a creeper and make the particles, and that's it. That's pretty basic. But if you combine it with the custom casting type that you can also define in this pack, you can make a bouncing fireball, as well as, you know, a lot of other things. So that's currently what I am working towards now. So hopefully that goes by pretty good. Anyway, I think that wraps it up, unless anybody else has any questions regarding data packs in general. And if not, the next thing that we will do, not tomorrow, I will put out an announcement for it. Oh, Saber? Yes?
Sorry, I'm pretty sure you mentioned this earlier, but what's the difference between a plugin and a data pack?
Okay. So a data pack uses Minecraft's internal mechanics, and it's essentially like a collection of command blocks. So anything that you can do in the base game, you can also do with data packs. Plugins differ because plugins have the ability to run on a separate thread from the data packs, which is why specifically with items adder casting and crucible casting and the right click left click detection on those items, they are faster, both because they can actually put customized tags on items which will then directly inject detectors in there to say, hey, is this item actually being right-clicked with? If so, run this parameter of code. And that's how the casting works on Everdark, as I have the items adder plugin, which allows for that. The other thing is that plugins can run on a separate thread from the main Minecraft loop, which is why the back items in the cosmetics menu is a lot faster than what the teleporting for the item displays are, or interaction entities. Third is that plugins are coded in Java instead of using Minecraft's internal stuff. And the only way that plugins really work is because you have the server jars like Paper and Spigot and jars like that. They they allow for plugins to run by basically injecting plugin code into the server game directly. The other thing that plugins just generally have more access to the game. So, for example, with data packs, I am unable to just open an inventory on your screen. No matter what I do, unless you're looking at a chest or a chest minecart or another table or something, I can't just open up a GUI. I really wish that I could. Someday in the future, maybe. But for right now, the only thing that can really do that is the plugins. The other thing is that plugins and datapacks really don't mix very well because they're, you know, coded differently, and plugins apparently cannot use selectors. So that is the core differences of them. I think I listed 5. Hopefully that came across as coherent.
Yeah, it was coherent. What are selectors again?
So if I do execute /execute at e type equals llama crater llama run kill at s. So this at e, that's a selector. At s, that's a selector. And then all of this stuff in the brackets, this is parameters for the selector, to, you know, be able to select it. So one of the big issues that I have right now with data packs and resource packs is that, specifically for mythic mobs, what I would really like to happen is, let's take, for example, the Shadow Sorcerer. What I would like to do is I would like to have a function to where if I right-click on this cube, it summons a Shadow Sorcerer here. Unfortunately, that's not possible because plugins cannot use selectors. So in order to actually do that, I've been thinking about it, and I would have to either use a specific tag, which is internal to the Mythic Mobs plugin, or I would have to do a bunch of crazy stuff like what Nova did on his stream, his last stream that featured Scampy, in where he summoned, basically he cloned a dispenser that had a spawn egg of the mob that he wanted to spawn inside of it, and then just cloned it inside of the thing, and then quickly triggered it, and then deleted it. I would have to do something like that, which is pretty cumbersome, to be honest.
I don't know what you did on this last stream. I can't just.
Yeah, I mean the stream that I'm talking about happened a while ago, but either way, it's. Yeah, that's. I would rather work in the datapack space for right now. I have a feeling that someday, if I continue to work on this spell system, it will end up being a plugin, though.
So basically, just plugins are kind of harder to code, and you select this.
Yeah, they're harder to code. They have more interaction with the game, and they can't use selectors.
Right. That was.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Alrighty. Well, I think that was probably a pretty successful evening. Hello, Taco. Now that you're here, Taco, I want to do a quick aside here and make you throw up a little bit by showing you the 1.0 data pack, because I don't think that you've seen it. Oh no, not again. Yeah. Look at this. Look at this, Taco. Isn't it terrible? It's so bad. One folder. One folder. Massive tick file. Massive tick file. Taco. The server did not function. All right. I'll spare you that. Yeah, I think that's gonna wrap up the TED Talk for today. The next talk that we're gonna have, I'm going to actually combine the resource pack and the data packs together in order to make something incredible. We're going to go over animations in using animated Java and putting them in the game and summoning them and all kinds of stuff. And it's going to be great. So that's all for now. I appreciate the people that joined in, and I hope that you have a wonderful evening.